And that's going to happen to you when you retire overseas. Whether you, and in his example, he probably was only a couple of miles away, and we're 10,000 miles away or Okay, so what I'd like to talk about today is, I mean, it's just sad, but it is the way it is. No one, for people planning on soon expecting to retire, you are far better off if you set your expectation realistically, which is it should be, let me check, in the basement. No one is going to care about your retirement. That just sounds mean to say. And this isn't just my experience, although there are glorious exceptions. I want to point out you will find real family members who actually love and care about you. You will find actual real friends that care about you and will even be supportive. I have a friend right now who's in contrast to today's subject, but this is the rare example you will find. He's going through a terrible time right now. I feel terrible for him. He's having real problems with his retirement. He's having some physical health issues and things. And this guy's cheering me on. And I feel terrible. I'm not one of those guys that posts every single positive thing that happens on Facebook or something, but I share some aspects of my life, both good and bad, because I do have, obviously living overseas, plenty of friends that don't get to see me every day and all that. And I slightly cringe a little bit inside, and I want to soften some of what I'm going to say at times because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That's called being a good person. I want to start off at the beginning of this and the best way to do this is I'm going to attempt to keep it very short. I want to tell this little story that's the best story I've ever heard about being a member of a group and then leaving the group, and then you're no longer part of that group. And that sounds super obvious to say, yet it's something that almost none of us realize. And when you retire versus not retired, those are two different groups, I want to point out. So I was running a franchise construction office. I was between plastics companies at the moment. I had my first company was done. I had yet to start my second company, although I was working on it. And I needed to make money, and I had a golden opportunity to work and open up a branch office for this franchise-type construction business, which was a brilliant concept. The guy that ran it had a lot of personal problems, unfortunately, but he was extremely intelligent and a gifted businessman, and we made money hand over fist for the 5 years that I ran this office for him. And as part of being the first and always biggest branch office manager, I got to be what I referred to myself as king of the dipshits. And by that I mean I had a small percentage ownership of all the other subsequent branch offices, and I kind of ran all the other remote offices, and then my office ran out of the main office and all this kind of stuff. And one of the branch office new managers was this guy named Carl. I'll just say his first name. And he was a retired pastor, and he was looking for something new to do, and he wanted to make probably more money, I suppose. I can't imagine being a pastor pays a whole lot. And so he was a pretty competent branch manager guy. We got to be fairly close at that time, working together, daily, talking daily, you know how it is. And one time he told me this story of when he was on a drywall crew. And I've told the story twice before on my channel, but it's such a good story. It's so poignant to our retirement. It's such a spot-on example. He's a member of this retirement crew, roughly 6 or 7 guys from recollection. And they met at this diner every morning early. And they would have their cigarettes, they'd have their breakfast, they'd have their coffee. They'd all share and tell their personal stories and challenges and whatnot and hopes and dreams and such. And you can imagine, if you've ever been a part of a group like that, and I have, you get quite close with these people. You get very close. He loved doing that. And then he went off to some other crew. I forget what he did after that. But he missed the guys. It was such a brotherhood to him, and it was such an important ritual every morning for him, having his coffee and his cigarette and all those things with these guys that he was so close to. And so he said, Rob, he goes, it was just a few weeks later. He goes, it wasn't even, I don't even think it was a month after. I went back because I knew the diner and the exact time and our table, in the corner, our one table, and I went to our table at our time and all the guys were there. And he goes, within minutes, he says, Rob, it was obvious to me I was no longer a part of that group. And he goes, it really hurt my feelings. It was really hard for me to get over that loss. And he said, but it just shows the example that when you're just not part of a group anymore, you're just not part of it. And that's going to happen to you when you retire overseas. Whether you, and in his example, he probably was only a couple of miles away, and we're 10,000 miles away or whatever. But it obviously doesn't matter, although being 10,000 miles away, it doesn't help. But I'll tell you, I've wrapped up 3 years here, and I come home generally once a year, although the first 2 years I didn't come home because of COVID, the complexities and the cost of travel, all the crazy visas. I had to get a special visa to travel through frickin' Canada to go to the United States. Are you kidding me? Because of COVID. So it was so onerous, I didn't even go the first time. And I was in agonizing pain with my back. Travel was so difficult. But anyway, but I've been home twice. I've been home twice so far, and very shortly here I'm going home for the third time. And this will be I'm into my 4th year now, to be specific. So all that to say, every time I go home, I have fewer people that need to see me. I take it in stride. I find it entertaining. You cannot, I'm telling you, you in no way can guess who is going to drop out and who is not. People, I was, one couple in particular, I was sure I would lose in the divorce. And, they got some calls from people from the other side, not saying anybody's name or anything, not trying to imply anybody either, just some from the other side of the divorce. There's a big side, lots of people on both sides, and some people from the other side took it upon themselves to call virtually, as far as I know, I haven't gone around and asked everybody because who cares, but like every friend I have, and just say, Rob's just a bad guy, and we think he might be some kind of alcoholic maniac. And I was a light drinker. That was like a ridiculous lie. It's like a while back, the whole thing with Musk making a Hitler salute. There's no way he did. That's so. The lies sometimes are so ridiculous. You can see them for what they are, but they work on some people. They do. That's why they do that. They do work on some people. But, anyways, these people later, just recently, actually, told me the story. They go, "Yeah, they called us," and I was at a dinner with two couples, and I'm friends with both couples. We're all like a group, and both the wives spoke up at the same time. They go, "Yeah, we got calls like the same day, and we ended up hanging out, saying we're Team Rob, and hung up on them." And I the one for sure I thought I'd lose, honestly. But you can never tell. I do want to give a little more background on this, and if you'll forgive me, I do, and I hate to say this. I want to tell just one more short story because it's so pertinent to this, and these two lessons are how I really learned this lesson, other than through the last 3 years of my direct experience. And I was with my first plastics company near the sort of end of it, but it got quite big at this time. We were bidding to get into up to every Home Depot, which at the time was 2,200 stores. I have no idea what they have now, if it's more or less. And we were we'd weaseled our way because I'd hired two guys that ended up becoming my mentors, a guy named Bob and a guy named Dick. Brilliant businessmen. I've described them before. Bob was a retired NFL lineman, just this giant human being. And then Dick is one of the. I'm still close friends with Dick. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's literally a genius, and I really mean that. So gifted with how he does things. And by their deft maneuvering, they had weaseled and snuck my product throughout by avoiding the formal, proper, draconian channels of Home Depot, and got us in. I think we're in our third region, which would be like, we're like at 350 stores or something. And eventually, like, who the fuck are these people? How'd they get into 3 regions and we don't know who they are? And then we got called in to Las Vegas to make a big formal presentation. And I was one of the people that always put together the presentations. Obviously, Dick and Bob checked everything I did, and they'd make it 10 times better when they were done with it. Here's the lesson, though. So I'm going through this, and it was a very clever, they gave me an outline that they've used successfully, and it was a really ingenious outline. It put you into a very short, I think I was allowed 3 minutes to talk. I was going to be the second speaker. I think Bob was going to introduce it. The whole thing, the whole group, the whole concept, and then I was going to give a 3-minute overview, and then they were going to do a deep dive on the mechanics of the merchandising and such, and how they make money. That's what Home Depot wants to hear about, is how they make money. And I'm going through this, and Bob had allowed me near the end to put in a little bit of personal stuff. I'm kind of a personal guy. I speak from the heart, and this was the same kind of presentation I was giving at the Home Depot. And I'd done the regional ones before, had my legs under me a little bit. I was feeling comfortable with this. And Bob had allowed me to leave in some personal stuff, reasonable touch, all this and that. And then Bob and I go into Dick's office. And Dick is was the bigger of the two partners. I didn't know this at the time, but later I was told it was like a 60-40 split or something along those lines. And Dick was the big partner. And then Bob was brilliant and gifted, but no one was going to be at Dick's level. It's just the way it is. And point being, we're in Dick's office. Bob and I are sitting in the 2 chairs in front of his desk, and we're going through this whole thing. And Dick just looks at me and he goes, Rob, just like this, he goes, no one's going to care. He goes, and at this point, we had established a real good personal relationship. I knew he cared about me. I knew he cared about my personal advancement of my personal career, not just my plastics company that he was making a big fat profit off of, running it into the Home Depot, which he did successfully. There was nothing like that. So he was my personal mentor and business mentor, as well as just helping a paid consultant to help my company. So this is a deep relationship at this point. I'd known him a year and a half at this point, and it was talking every day. You get to know somebody pretty good. And he just sighs like that, and he goes, Rob, they're just not going to care. It just doesn't matter what you're going to say about this. All they're going to care about exclusively is what's in it for them and how this works for them, he goes. And then he kind of pauses and he goes, now, if you need to say some of this stuff, if it makes you feel better, and he wasn't being condescending. I want you to hear it right. And you leave it in, that's fine. He goes, but they're just not going to care. And Bob was kind of dejected almost as much as I was, which that fact surprised me, because Bob would know all this. He was a seasoned pro. I was not. I was the punk kid. I was 32 years old maybe at this point. And we took it out. And this is you with your retirement. I want you to hear Dick, my big mentor, with the white beard and the voice like Charlton Heston behind his big desk at his office, making 7 figures, going, they're just not going to care. And that's what you should hear. And then you will find, if that's your expectation, you'll be much less disappointed. And then you'll be thankful and surprised, and it'll be wonderful and joyous, the 5% of people or whatever that actually step forward and say, hey, how you doing? Hey, I haven't seen you in 6 months. How's it going over there? And with each passing year, you'll lose some, because that's just, you're not a member of that group anymore. And like the first story, and that's okay too. But eventually, if you make the effort, and I always had that in my head that if you want to have a friend, you got to be a friend. And so I continue to be a friend to the people that matter to me. And then still some just don't reciprocate over time. And then, okay, you've told me who I am to you, and I have to take your word at that because it's your word. But the ones that do reciprocate, or if I'm busy doing my stuff from time to time, then they reach out once in a while and say, hey, how's it going? Or when they hear I'm in town back home, I get a text saying, hey, I saw on Facebook you were at the local restaurant. You're obviously back in the States now. Let's get together. I need to see you, But Every year it'll be less and less. I'm only on year 3. I don't know where this ends. I have a few friends that I'm pretty confident will go longer than this. I can tell you the most important person in this whole thing would be my son, because he's an adult with autism living on his own independently. I have a daughter I love just as much, but she doesn't have the same needs that maybe he does. They're very different people. And but I haven't taken any hit with him or my daughter, and we're all doing great. We're all doing wonderful with this. That honestly, because my divorce was only almost hours, only a couple days before I got on a plane to Thailand. I mean, that was the last thing I was waiting for, was the signing off. The signing, and then they have to countersign. You've been through that whole thing. I was waiting for the final countersign on the divorce decree, and I got the countersign, and my bags literally were already packed in the basement of my friend's house, and I was on a plane. He dropped me off, and that was it. And so actually my relationship with my kids to some degree has kind of improved because the sting of the divorce, which, well, we were married 29 years, 29. We're going on our 30th anniversary, and I kind of told this story. I was talking with a friend of mine, and I'm like, I don't want to go. I really don't want to go. None of the stuff on the trip on the itinerary, nothing on the itinerary was anything I wanted to do. It was all stuff I didn't like. Going to places I didn't like and activities I didn't like. And at that point, my ex-wife and I, all we were doing was arguing over everything. We couldn't go to lunch. We couldn't go to a nice lunch with me paying for everything and have a pleasant hour. That was not an option at that point. So why would you spend 10 days walking through Italy if you don't eat pasta? Why would you do that? So I didn't. I hope she took somebody she liked. I have no idea what happened. I went to Thailand. I had a way better time. I'm making this video to help somebody who is planning or coming up or just recently retired, and you're all excited, and pardon me, I just hit the table. You're all excited, and everything is really cool and neat to you and everything, and then you slowly but fairly immediately start to see that people are just not that enthusiastic. And, I think for a guy that's a member of a club and they're going to stay in their area and be a part of that club, then it's just you've had a divorce or you've quit working, but you're still a member of the same AC Cobra Club, going to all the meets and talking about Carol Shelby, which I think is cool, by the way, and nothing much changes for you. But I do want to say, if you come overseas to retire, I don't think you lose really any more friends than if you were to stay home. That's going to sound really weird, but I don't think it's any different, because I've noticed when my activities level shifted, and I've semi-retired twice back home, my friends mix shifted with that. It's just the way it goes. I think we're all part of those very ethereal groups, like my friend's drywall crew group. And even with only a few weeks and being in the same geographic area the whole freaking time, you come back a few weeks later, you're not part of the group. And he said no one tried to give him the cold shoulder or be mean to him, but it was just the dynamic had shifted, and he was no longer a member of that group. And he never went back. And that really bothered him. He told me the story, and it was a handful of years past when he told me the story, and it still hurt him to tell it. But he learned he was a smart guy, and he learned the lesson the first time. He didn't have to go back. So, and just like my mentor Dick would say, it's just not going to be on their radar. Everyone's busy thinking about their life and how they're going to make their life better, and it's just not going to. Your stuff isn't just not going to be on their radar. So, I don't know. There's some thoughts for you. I mean, I think that's the mindset you should have. I think retirement is mostly a solitary endeavor, unless you're on a bowling team or something, and then you're just doing that. You're a big pilot, and you're part of a pilot club or something. I've got friends doing all these various different things, and maybe it's different. But unless you've got something that your life literally revolves around, and you've got, like, for me, I can't think of it sounds passive-aggressive to say, but I would call it like a balanced life. Or I've always looked at a life, and I've taught my children, look at it like a pizza. You want a slice for being a good neighbor, a slice for being a good spouse. One slice is for being a good father or mother to your children. It's those things. Being a good employee if you're working for somebody, whatever it is. and for your fitness and all that. And if you've kind of done it like I raised my kids to be, I guess more like me, subconsciously, that well-rounded guy. Y'all know that the universities take the stud athlete or the math genius. You know who excels in life? It's the well-rounded student. The one that gets a minor track or scholarship or a minor academic scholarship or just did well all around. The application boards look for those guys. They look for a certain percentage of people that are just a well-rounded student. That's what I was. That's how I got into the little bit slightly better university, Michigan State University back at the time. It's gotten, after I went, it's gotten much harder to get into. I don't know what it's like now, but I know when my kids were there, I was shocked at how competitive it had gotten. I felt bad for them. They ultimately did go on and do their thing. But, and in retirement, I think if you're that well-rounded guy, I think that's still true. I think we still do the best overall, unless your whole life has got to revolve around like planes and flying or golf. Then if that's all that matters to you, then you could do that, and maybe that makes you happy. To me, there's no one thing that is so awesome. I really enjoy motorcycling, but I motorcycle to the gym. I motorcycle taking Fawn to a nice restaurant. I do things with it. Just riding a motorcycle all day, I wouldn't do that either. Like I said before, I love to sail. I dragged my little boats on and off the beach, on my own beach I had in Michigan, and I sailed. And I always thought, well, I'll buy a cruiser, I'll retire, and I'll live on a sailboat. And eventually it dawned on me, why the hell would I want to live on a boat all the time? So just because you like something doesn't mean you got to do it 24/7. So anyways, but I'm dragging on. So that's the talk. That's what was on my mind, and I feel so bad because I get through my channel so many messages from guys and direct messages and comments, people retiring, and they're like, hey, like, where's the parade? I just retired. This was really hard. I saved up. I got 2 pensions, and I was able to, do my rehab and let my cane go. I got my knee replacement done, and now I'm ready to go, and it's crickets chirping over here. What the heck? What gives? And, I got to tell that guy, that's like everybody else. Welcome to the party, pal. So there you go. Thank you, and that's it. I'll just show you my home gym a little bit. I bought a 3-month membership after the 1-month trial that I paid for. They don't do free trials here at all, which is fine. And I'm finding, it looks like a lot of equipment, but a lot of it's stuff I don't use, but they have just enough, and it's kind of medium price. I guess maybe for me, I don't care because this is like my important thing, but it's fine. And then they've got pretty nice parking out front. Can you see it? And there you can see it. There's my motorcycle. Got a nice little shady spot right in the corner. Nobody parks there, and I can see my bike all the whole time I'm here, other than unless I'm showering. So it's the little things, I think I'm going to renew for a longer term here. This is working out pretty. They even have a pool if I want. I just I keep meaning to go to the other hotel to do the pool, and I never do. So maybe I got to use the pool here. I don't know. Thank you for watching my YouTube video. If you've watched this far, please consider hitting like and subscribe.